Recording. Ricola.
8675309. I don't know why that just popped in my head.
So I want to say, like, how was your week? After we've just talked about it for the last 2 hours. Has it been 2 hours that we've been?
Yeah, because I got here at 6:30.
And we had tamales. We've been sipping on this Pinot Grigio. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, we're almost done.
I like it.
Oh my God! I almost said, "What's that sound?" That was funny. I've never heard that come out of you. Oh.
Well, the voice box doesn't like it because it said rotten.
It's talking about my neighbor.
Yeah. Your neighbor's rotten.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he never listens to us. He probably doesn't even know what a podcast is.
No, pretty sure.
Hearing. Okay, so we just, right off the top, we put the, because we've been having some crazy ass shit. I kid you not, going on with this ghost app.
Yeah.
Observe.
Okay, what was the thing before? Hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not kidding. I think he listens. You can hear everything that comes out of my house.
Uh-huh.
My windows are so thin that I know, I've even tested it out. Like, you can hear clearly. It sounds like I'm outside. Like, you can hear everything that happens in my house. I'm pretty sure he listens to me talking to my cat.
If he's talking about shooting random pigeons off your roof.
With a gun. Not a BB gun. A real bullet.
But in a friendly, neighborly kind of way.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to help you out.
I just don't want to leave carcasses on your
Okay.
roof. I thought maybe you wouldn't appreciate that.
Please don't shoot the pigeons on my roof. Like you miss a pigeon
poison
and you hit my neighbor's kid.
Right. Riding their bike down the street.
Don't shoot your gun.
No.
Very strange.
Insane.
I agree. I agree. He's insane. When you said he's insane earlier and then you go into this whole spiel about, I was like, what the actual frickety frick.
Right? I'm glad I had a witness to it, though. Otherwise, I think people would think I was making shit up.
So it's literally been, I want to say it's like 3 weeks since the last time we recorded.
I think 3 weeks.
Because we pre-recorded our last episode. That was the Black Dahlia and the Comedy Store. And let me just tell you, like, the whole time we were in San Diego, I felt like that weirdo. Like, I wanted to talk about the Black Dahlia.
That's hilarious.
With David and Anna. And they are normal people. They don't talk about this stuff.
That's hilarious. Does she listen?
No,
not regular.
No, because she's not real. She doesn't like stuff that makes her scared.
Yeah.
So.
What's happening?
She keeps saying, one of these days I'm going to have to listen. I'm like, oh, girl, you ain't going to listen.
Oh, well.
Anyways, so you and I are going to tag team a story again. And we're going to do JonBenet Ramsey.
Yes.
And
it's intense.
Super intense.
Like how was my week? 2 weeks.
Right. We had like extra time to like go. That's what we were like, oh, well, since we're going to have all this extra time, let's like do a story we've been wanting to do.
And there's so much of it. Like there's so much to just between podcasts, movies, documentaries, YouTubes. I've
listened to so many things and I've read so many things that I've probably forgotten half of it. Like,
no, I'm sure. Yeah.
So you guys, we're going to do our best to get this whole story out. You know, obviously there's so many theories out there. There's like, it's just insane. So, you know, if we forget something, please forgive us. We're just going to do our best on this story.
This dog thinks she's a lap dog.
I know.
Her tongue just went inside my mouth.
Just trying to French kiss you. Giving you some tongue.
I love her.
She's a girly girl. It hasn't gone from that.
She needs to come cuddle with me.
So yeah, as we were saying, we were getting some crazy stuff on this ghost app.
Right.
Even after the last episode that we recorded.
Okay.
You want me to pull her down?
Yeah, you can get down.
I'm going to tempt fate and say that she's not the farty one.
No.
But now that I've said that,
she'll probably fart.
Right.
Well, we can't.
And you're going to taste it.
Or midway through, dogs will switch places and we'll get a farty one.
Right.
I mean, we can't have a podcast without a farty dog. Jumped. Maybe he's jumping over my fence. No, he comes in. I didn't have a lock yet. I'm getting a lock for my gate. But I actually had to rig a paper clip to kind of it's a way to open it. So I had to kind of rig it so that it would be hard for him to just open it.
I just figured I should probably take a picture.
Yeah. And put it on. Yeah. Oh, look, it's getting ready to say something else. Tearing apart.
Okay, that's interesting.
Rarely do these things, it actually gave us a whole sentence at one point.
Yeah. Well, and it was super insane right after we finished recording the last episode. It gave us, it was 3 in a row, personal, really personal stuff. Names that I'm not going to repeat here, but it was just I literally, we're closing up. Bianca had just, we closed out with her and we still had this thing going and it says this name and I look at Carlene, I was like, do you know such and such? And she's like, no. And then I was like, oh, I actually know such and such. And I told her why. And then it said, my God, or something like that. And then it said the connected person that I had just mentioned.
Name, which isn't a common name.
Right. And I got up and I literally...
Waste element?
I literally got up and screamed. Scared the shit out of Carlene. I ran out of here.
I'm like, what?
It was funny.
It was hilarious.
And on that episode, we were getting so many hits from my story.
Yes. Yep.
So weird. Yeah. Anyway, so we just have it going while we're doing our story here. We're drinking. I'm not gonna promise that I'm not gonna be drunk by the end of this story because it's very upsetting.
It is just anything that involves kids. Oh my God! Wait, did you watch the updated thing on Valo?
Was it 2020?
I think it was 2020.
I started watching it and I fell asleep.
It was more in depth, and it kind of brought us to today, where everything is.
No, I fell asleep before it finished, but I did start watching it.
What led them to the backyard, how they got there with the pings on the cell phone, and it started from the beginning to where we are today. And yeah, it was good. It was good.
Was it really good?
Mm-hmm.
I keep meaning to go back and watch it, but
yeah, go watch it. It's good. Even now, I think it's interesting how the police in Chandler are saying, yeah, it was weird. They were joking and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why wasn't he arrested? I feel like usually when something like that happens, they arrest, even if it's self-defense, they arrest them, take them in, and
question them.
I mean, I have some friends that were involved in something kind of recently, and they were handcuffed. It happened, an intruder came into their house. They had to shoot. That person didn't die, but they were handcuffed and put in the back of police cars for several hours while an investigation happened and everything was... I
mean, they just took her brother's word for it that was self-defense, basically.
Nobody was even handcuffed. It was just oh, okay, well, and then their stories were so aligned, and even the daughter, and why your husband was just murdered in front of the kids and you're driving one to school right after.
It's super hard to watch her daughter lie for them.
Yeah, oh my God, it was so sad.
After we know what happened.
Yes, she had her back and then she ends up dead.
That was pretty bad.
So sad. Anyway, I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask if we're going to have to do an updated thing
definitely.
After all this is done.
Yeah, we said we would. Yeah. Bianca was actually asking me about that because she's catching up on all these episodes. I'm on the episode where you guys are talking about Lori Vallow.
I will say It'll be better to do an update once more court time, because I believe they're getting ready to have more court time coming up. So it'll be better to do an update after that.
We'll definitely do that. So yeah, I've basically spent the week packing because we're getting ready to go completely mobile. So we're closing down the shop in Scottsdale, and we have a lot of shit.
Do you?
We have a lot of shit.
Well, didn't he leave a lot of stuff too for you guys?
There's stuff that we don't even use, that we kind of just like held on to it. So yeah, we got a storage and we're putting a lot of stuff and getting rid of a lot of stuff. Just basically downsizing. So
that's good though.
Yeah, no, we need to and reassess.
I think a lot of people are even corporations I think are doing that.
Oh, yeah.
They're finding it's cheaper, and I almost think that there's going to be a lot that stay having people work at home because it'll save their bottom line.
You see, he's got his computer and everything set up here now because he had all that over there at the shop.
Okay.
Yeah, it says faith. Interesting.
That's kind of been the theme of the week with people this week.
Faith.
Yep.
Do you want to give the word of the week? The theme of the week?
Faith.
Have faith.
Have faith. Tell me.
Oh, it's saying tell me. Preach.
Preach, Carlene, preach. Things are better when you have faith. Not religion, just your connection to that spirit, to that faith. The faith is the unknown, but you know it's there. It's a way of knowing. Seriously, when you have a connection to faith, you call it, I always tell people, call it Santa Claus if you want.
Right.
I call him God, but you can call him Santa if you want, or universe. But when you have faith in that, Connor calls it universe. I always tell people my son Connor
it literally
calls it the universe.
Just said
the heck?
The word is Connor.
Oh my God. N-O-R, just like I spell, oh my gosh. And I will always say, my oldest son, he calls it the universe. Holy cow amole.
That is some crazy shit.
That's crazy. But anyway, when you are connected to something that's greater than yourself and you have faith in it, it makes all of this, like people say, how are you doing with this COVID? I'm like, I'm doing great. Like I'm not bothered by it because I'm connected to faith.
Right.
So I know we're going to be okay. Everything's fine. Everything is meant to be the way it is.
Right.
And like right now, my AC's broken and my check engine light just came on and whatever, Right. I don't say, oh, great, now what's going to happen? I just go with, I know it's going to be okay.
Right.
I did this.
Oh.
I will, the resources will come to me. I'll figure it out.
It said your son and my son's name today.
Yes, it did. That was like right on cue.
And we haven't talked about either one of them tonight.
No, we have not even said their names.
All right. So,
but the fact that I just said, literally, literally when I talk about faith with people, I will always say, like with my oldest, he calls it the universe. And my youngest and my middle and youngest, they call it God, Jesus, But I don't tell them. I've been the foundation and guided, but I've never labeled that for them. You have to go on that journey on your own. Mm-hmm. But without faith, things are a lot harder.
Right.
Because what do you lean on?
Right.
And then people say, myself. And it's like, no, it just helps to know that there's a greater force out there helping us through this. Even if it's an alien, just know that there's a greater force.
E.T. Phone home.
Anyway, have faith. Faith is helpful.
Word of the week.
Have faith in yourself. Have faith in something greater than yourself. The end. Preach. I cannot believe it did that. That was insane. That blew me away.
Yeah. That is crazy.
It was so fast and so on cue.
Oh, she's laying down. Finally, she just settled down. We have one of the other babies in here. We have Athena, which is Carlene's baby.
She is.
She keeps telling me she's going to take her home.
I haven't done it yet. Because I have the bitch cat.
11. Says 11. 7-11. 11.
Sad 11 from Stranger Things.
We're about to go in the upside down.
Hold on. I'm going to get a refill. Which one did you give us? This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Didn't I just pour some for you? I thought
Girl, it's like water tonight.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's going to sneak up on us, though.
Probably.
So I better start talking before I start slurring. Okay, like I said, we're talking about JonBenet Ramsey. And
JonBenet.
unless you've been living under a rock for the last 25 years.
I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah. 1996. And I was thinking to myself, it was December 1996.
Yeah, Christmas.
Yeah. I literally just had Mario. We were like on our second year of marriage. Dang. My mom was living with us. Yeah. And then I just was thinking, like, how did I not know all of this stuff? I think I just, like, dipped my toe in it. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking because the kids were so tiny at that time that I probably just shut it down because it was just too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And honestly, like, my opinion was that the parents did it. And I think that's just based on all the media at the time. Because I really never, like, took a deep dive into this story.
I mean, it was on People magazine, The Inquirer, it was on every magazine, every newspaper, every
news channel. CNN, everything.
Everything.
It was like highly sensationalized, and especially because JonBenet was a child beauty queen. She was in the whole pageant process.
Let's just talk about that for a second. Okay. I mean, I know you haven't started.
That's okay.
But this is a big, let me pull this. Let me get there we go. It's a big part of this story is the fact that she was this beauty queen at 6 years old.
Right.
And I'm just going to say those beauty pageant things in themselves are creepy.
Right.
Putting false teeth in their kids, little girls, and then the big wigs that they put on them and all the makeup they put on it and dressing them like little women.
And I think that's had a lot to do with why people like had these strong opinions towards the family, because people have these strong opinions about the child beauty queens and the whole pageant thing. So
I would always tell Allie, like, if I had the money to begin one of those organizations myself, I would make it like these kids they need to look like kids. This is a beauty. It's cool if you want to have beauty pageants for kids, because a lot of those kids like it. But they need to look like kids, not little grown-up women.
Right.
And that's what they were saying. Like, it looked sexualized.
Right. Well, it wasn't just her. It's like, it's all of them. That's just the whole, it says March and then it says judge. We're judging.
Well, you know what I'm watching right now?
What?
I'm watching on Court TV. I'm watching the whole George. Why can't I think of his last name? Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Everybody does. Anyway, I'm watching that. Oh, that is terrible that I don't know his last name. That I can't. Anyway.
Let's blame it on we have a brain full of
wine now.
Wine and JonBenet.
Yeah. And I'm watching the whole jury selection process right now, which is interesting.
George Floyd.
Floyd. I always want to say Foreman because I think of the boxer. I'm like, that's not it. But anyway, yeah. Anyway.
Definitely. No, I agree. I think that people have strong... Well, yeah, it shouldn't. And we probably watched a lot of the same stuff. And you see the whole seedy underbelly of this and the dark web, like the shit that's going on behind the scenes. These fucking creepers that
they go to these things. Yeah.
So,
weird.
Yeah, that was definitely an element out there.
All right, I'll let you go ahead and we'll start so people know what we're talking about.
So yeah, part of it was the whole media frenzy. Like, if you know about it, it's because of the whole media frenzy.
And there is a whole generation that doesn't even know what we're talking about, I'm sure.
Right.
That are in their 20s, 30s, maybe even.
Yeah, they have to be like early 20s because this is like, wow. 25 years ago.
Yeah. So think, 25 years ago, so even if they're 30, 35, they may not actually know about it because they were so little.
Yeah, they were little. They weren't paying attention.
Yeah. So here you go. Here's a true crime for you.
So yeah, it was sensationalized, just like the Dahlia case that we did the last time. Like, there hadn't been a case before that, and this is the same thing. There hadn't been a murder case, a child murder case, where they had sensationalized it to this degree.
Yeah.
Where the parents became the subject, and they were already being tried in the court of public opinion.
They were accused from the get-go.
Right.
Like right immediately. There was no other suspects, but I'll let you get to it.
Okay. So this has to be the most tragic Christmas story ever. Aside from the theories out there, there's been so much speculation and conjecture in regard to what's may have transpired that night. It's really hard to look at this case through an unbiased lens, but we're going to try. So let's start with the events of Christmas Day in Boulder, Colorado, 1996. The family, John Ramsey, Patsy Ramsey, 9-year-old Burke Ramsey, and 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, wake up that Christmas morning to open presents. I think they both got bikes.
Yeah, I believe they did. And I have to say, just to give you a visual of what Boulder was like, it's not a big place. It was very kind of like its own little
insular.
It seemed like it was far away from everything. It was like its own little island.
Right.
So it's not like it's some like my family lived in Pueblo. So if it's like Denver to Pueblo, like that's it. It's right there, but this is kind of like a very tucked away area, it seems like, because it wasn't very big at all.
Right. So later that day, the family heads over to a Christmas party at a family friend's house. I think it was in the neighborhood, like in the same.
So that's what it seemed like.
So they get home late, which is, they say late, but it was like 10-ish. And she's already asleep. So yeah. John takes her up to bed, tucks her away.
Carried her up
to bed. Puts her to bed, and then checks on Burke.
Wait a minute. I wouldn't have said anything except for when I saw what I saw today before I came here. It's important to note the version of this story is she was asleep in the car and he carried her to bed. Let's remember that because the stories get very...
It's like playing telephone.
They change a lot. So it's important to listen to that, and then we'll talk about the variations of the stories and where the information comes from.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because it's weird that the information comes from the same people, and I don't know. Just go ahead and keep going, but I just want to point that out to our listeners.
Okay. So yeah. So that's about 10 p.m. The next morning.
What did you say about Burke? Was he asleep?
I don't think he was. Okay, one of the stories that I hear is he was like still playing with his toys. So
right.
They kind of he was like said goodnight to him, and he went to his room. John went to his room, read a book until he fell asleep. And that's it until the next morning when Patsy wakes up at 5:30 because they were supposed to take a plane, I believe, to Atlanta.
Go back home.
And probably like continue their, holiday.
Their vacation.
Yeah. Right? Because this is like right between Christmas and New Year's. So
Right. And that's something else. Note, they already had a plan to go back to Atlanta.
Right.
So, okay, go ahead.
That was already in the works. Okay. So it's 5:30. Patsy Ramsey wakes up. She's the first person up. She's about to go make some coffee, start getting the morning going. She heads down the back stairs. And they're kind of like a spiral. It's almost like a spiral staircase. And as she's going down, she sees this what turns out to be a ransom letter. It's 3 pages, and they're like spread across one of the bottom stairs.
They were very neatly, according to them, laid out.
Right. And so the next, which I have actually right here somewhere. I printed them out. Right here. Oh, okay. Okay. So what it says is she picks it up and it basically reads saying that these kidnappers have her daughter. They've taken her for ransom, instructs them to withdraw $118,000, which, yes, that's something to remember. It's a very odd number.
A very odd number. From
their account in $100 bills and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. It's strangely the exact amount of John's Christmas bonus.
I mean, that is odd.
Very odd.
Who's going to know what his bonus was?
Unless if you go, like, I don't want to jump ahead.
No.
But if you go with the whole intruder theory, like one of the theories is that an intruder had been in the house while they had been away all day. I mean, if you got a Christmas bonus.
Maybe somebody found it sitting on the counter. In their desk.
Check stub in the garbage can, whatever. Like, theoretically, this person was in the house long enough to write this freaking letter. Theoretically.
I mean, they weren't very private. I think they definitely loved to flaunt their...
They had money.
They had a lot of money.
They had
this mansion that they lived in was it's a 15-room mansion. It's huge.
7,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's got the basement. I don't know if the
It's
basement,
like 3 levels,
yeah,
right?
I don't know if the basement's included in the 3 levels, or if it's 3 levels and then a basement. I think it's 3 levels and then a basement. It's people say it takes a lot of time to go through this house.
Right. Even like I was looking at diagrams. Here I go. Diagrams of the basement itself. It looks like it's like a rabbit's warren. It's like a maze almost. Like there's several rooms in there. So that when they, I don't want to jump ahead too much.
All right,
Okay,
let's go.
Okay. Also, the note instructs them not to call the police, but this is exactly what Patsy does. And in some stories, according to Patsy, she calls 911 and then calls her friends. And then in other stories, I've read that she calls her friends first and then calls 911. Yeah.
Okay.
One of the timelines that I had like looked up, because I looked up several timelines to kind of like put this all in order, and one of them said she calls her friends about 5:45, and then after this it's like 5:50 something that she ends up calling 911. So I'll just put those both out there.
All right.
But before this, she like panics, looks through the house, like just real quickly goes to JonBenet's room, checks the room, and I think like just from the interview with Burke, which is we'll talk about that.
Another thing.
Yeah.
Who's Greg?
Greg. It sounds like she went into his room first, like screaming, "Where's my baby?" and like kind of was like frantic looking around his room as well. So, and then she calls 911.
And I just want to say, in a lot of the podcasts that I heard, there were 1 or 2 that were saying things that I don't care how much research I didn't hear a lot of the things they were saying. So it is like the game telephone, and I do think things get added that I'm like, where did they hear that? That wasn't on any, and I did 2 weeks worth.
And we might end up doing the same thing here in our own.
Very well.
I know when I've listened back to stuff that we've done before, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what happened. But in the course of the conversation, we're gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
Jelly bean.
All right, so I'm just going to play the audio of her 911 call really quick.
Yes, good idea.
911 emergency. Police. What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter?
6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old.
How long ago was it?
I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's
Does it say who took her?
What?
Does it say who took her?
I don't know. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
It says SBTC. Victory. Please.
Okay, what's your name? Are you
Patsy Ramsey. I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
I'm sending an officer over, okay?
Please.
Do you know how long she's been gone?
No, I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please.
Okay,
Please, there's somebody.
I am, honey.
Please.
Take a deep breath,
Please,
okay?
hurry.
Patsy.
She was saying, "Help me, Jesus," there at the end.
Oh, okay. People keep saying to listen to the end, and I can never make out what's going on at the end.
She says, "Help me, Jesus," twice. She repeats it twice.
I never think that it's as big a deal as what people are saying. So
that was hard to listen to.
Yeah,
because you can hear the desperation in her voice.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I like how people think they know how they would react when they're analyzing this thing.
Exactly.
And they think, well,
if it was me,
I don't know that she'd keep. And the one thing, can I just state something? The one thing that a lot of the podcasts and the interviews and everybody keeps honing in on is the fact that she says, we have a kidnapping, instead of saying like, my daughter's missing, her verbiage is what people, she's a different character. She is used she's very prim and proper. Even when she's being interrogated.
She's a Southern belle.
Right. So manners are a big thing. So even when she's being interrogated, she's very into... she never cusses. She says, like, I forget what she said, but it's definitely not cursing.
Right.
And so she's definitely aware of the things that she says and the way she presents herself to the world, even when she's going through something.
Right.
And I think people misconstrued that as fake.
Being disingenuous.
And yeah, and that she's guilty of something, or she's dramatizing, or she's fake, you know, she has to be guilty because this happened or that, you know. And I just think that her whole life, she was probably raised as a Southern belle, and that you are always on.
Right.
And how you present yourself to the world is very important. And so she's very...
And if you've ever been around somebody, aside from you that are listening to us from the actual South, but like, you know, it's different for us when we hear somebody saying, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
I'm like, excuse me?
I had somebody that I was talking to in Nashville, and I had to ask her. I explained to her, like, in the West... we're not raised to say Miss Cora, Miss Alma. And because she's an elder, I knew I needed to address her, or at least ask her if she needed me to call her, you know, would you prefer I call you Miss Cora, or do you want me to call you Cora? You know, because I don't want to disrespect her.
Right.
But to explain how we are here and how they are there.
It's definitely different.
Definitely. All right, I'm sorry, but I just really needed to bring that up just because it's going to be a topic.
Definitely. It is a topic.
It is a topic.
Judgment is a topic because we like to say, well, I would do. This is what I would do.
Yeah.
When I'm watching a horror movie, well, I wouldn't do that. Why
are you going to hear the noise? I do that. I am the idiot that hears a noise and goes towards the noise. I am that person.
Anyways,
but
okay.
None of us know how we would react to something this dramatic. You know, we just don't know. So, let's try and keep an open mind through this.
Okay, so at 5:52 a.m., she finally calls 911. And the police arrive pretty much immediately.
Oh, pause for a second. Since we're on the 911 call. Part of the, unless you want to talk about this when we're talking about them, the 911 call, a lot of the people are upset that she hung up during the 911 call. Like most people will stay on until the police get there. Right. The police got there very, very quick.
She called them at 5:52. They got there at 5:59.
Yes, they got there pretty quick. Yeah. And people are like, well, and even the 911 operator said that, you know, most people stay on until the police show up.
She was in, okay, I've done pretty fucking weird things when I'm in a panic.
Right.
I have done some pretty weird shit when I'm panicked.
Yeah, and let me just clarify something. I actually do my best work when I'm freaking out. So if I'm nervous or I'm scared, when I call 911, which I have had to, the first thing I do, because I have been trained, is I speak very calm, no matter how freaked out I am. I had people like trying to get in my house one time. Right. And I remember like I was terrified. I couldn't find my weapon. I mean, I know my weapon's in the same place all the time. Right. Couldn't find it anywhere because I was so scared. But my voice remained calm. Mm-hmm. And first thing I do is give my address. And people had a problem with her giving the address as the very first thing she did. But again, when you train somebody and tell them the first thing you do when you call 911 is give them the address. Right. Well, clearly people have a problem with you doing that when your daughter's missing and you give your address. Right. But that helps get them out there faster.
Well, her saying oh my God. Yeah. I have had that 911 call. Yes. The kids were home. They would get home before me. And the dogs got in a fight. Oh, dear. And they called, Serena was the youngest at the time. Isaiah was, the oldest, and he's there, and he's done, Isaiah's outside. The dogs are fighting. And she's screaming in the phone. Oh, no. And then she hangs up with me. So I'm freaking out. Then the police call me.
Oh, no.
So the neighbors heard my kids freaking out and called 911. Serena and Mario ran out to the neighbors. They were like so freaked out because Isaiah was in the backyard trying to get these dogs to stop fighting. And oh my God. Anyways, so the police call me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm leaving work right now. I'm on my way. I'm in traffic. And I'm like, and he's like, slow down. We're here. I'm like, oh my God, are they okay? Like, that sound in her voice, it was, and he's like telling me, ma'am, calm down. Calm down. I don't want you to get in a car accident on your way over here. We are here. We'll talk when you get here. So that was an interesting.
You just, it's hard to judge. You just shouldn't judge. You just don't know how you're going to. It's a traumatizing thing that they were going. Believe me. Believe me. It's a traumatizing thing that they were going through.
That's what the Ghost app says. Yeah. Believe me.
And I think it's just interesting how everybody has some kind of opinion about. Now, listen, if she was freaking out and doing something else, or if she was, we just woke up and my daughter is missing, it wouldn't matter what she said or how she said it. She's going to be judged for it.
I haven't heard it, but they said that somebody got a hold of this and they did an enhanced version and they say they hear Burke. Yeah.
At the end.
Which I didn't hear any of that.
No, and even that's what the 911 operator was saying too. And people, they actually took it to someone to analyze and they said there's nothing there.
Right. Like you can overanalyze something. Like even when you and I are listening back to like trying to hear EVPs, you can make up a lot of shit.
Oh, when you're watching a show and all you hear is and they're like, did you hear it? It said, I'm here. Well, if you listen to it enough times, you hear, I'm here too. Hey, my brother-in-law's name is Sean. If you listen to it enough, you'll hear, I'm here. You're like, oh my God, it is saying that.
Right. Exactly.
So your brain, have you ever gotten those things, where they say the blue dress, the
right,
whatever. They also had a thing that actually did that where, because your brain
audio.
It's an audio thing that actually is.
You're trying to make sense of what you're hearing.
Your brain. So if your brain
just like
is
when you're
told,
matrixing visually, seeing something, you see faces and things.
Right. So if somebody tells you, well, it's a pink dress, you're going to see a pink dress because now your brain is expecting to see the pink dress or whatever. Now your brain is saying to hear, I'm here.
Right.
Oh, I can hear it. It's saying I'm here. But really all that's on there is, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. All right. So like I said, the police arrived pretty much immediately at about, I saw 6 somewhere and then I see 5:59 somewhere. It's police officer Rick French. And does what seems like now a cursory search. He pauses by the door that JonBenet was later found behind, but doesn't open it. French later explained that he was looking for an exit route used by the kidnapper, which the closed inside peg ruled out. So he was just looking for how the kidnapper left or came in, or he wasn't actually because at this point they think it's a kidnapping.
Right.
He's not looking for a body.
Right. And just to let you all know that I actually just saw this on the last thing that I watched. It is the day after Christmas. Yeah, the day after Christmas.
It's the next morning.
It's a small police station that doesn't really, it's not like Denver. And a lot of the detectives, the
senior,
they were on vacation.
Right.
So there weren't a lot of staff. Right. So considering that, they got there pretty quick.
Right.
But
I heard somebody refer to it as the B team.
Exactly. I saw that too. So and that is exactly it. You get a B team, you get a B investigation.
Right.
So
that's pretty much how this started.
Yes. So just keep that in mind that you're not getting the top of the line big city investigators.
And even if it was the top of the line, there's no guarantee that it would have went
been different.
any differently.
It's just a lot of mistakes have been made.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
So then from about 6 to 8 a.m., 4 more officers arrive at the Ramsey residence. Policemen Beach, Weiss, Barklow, and their supervisor Reichenbach. Some friends of theirs have also come to help. The Whites, who she had called.
Some friends?
Yeah.
They called all their friends.
I know.
Damn.
The Fernies and Reverend Haverstock. And there are also victim advocates that have also arrived. With JonBenet still missing, John made arrangements to pay the ransom. A forensics team was dispatched to the house. The team initially believed that the child had been kidnapped, and JonBenet's bedroom was the only room in the house that was cordoned off to prevent contamination of evidence. And this is very important because, and to me, even though at this point they still think it's a kidnapping,
it's a crime
still
scene.
A crime scene. The whole house is a crime scene.
But now it's been contaminated.
Yes.
With
all these people who they're of course they're coming over in support, and they're not being told no by the investigative team.
They're being let in, and
if this happened to me, of course I'm going to call my support people. Like I'm going to be like, hey, or I'm going to call you, and you're going to be like, I'm coming over.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let's stand outside. We don't want to contaminate.
That's what's going to happen unless the people that are in charge of investigating push back and say no. And that's not what happened. At this time, they don't believe she's in the house, and they believe she has been kidnapped. So there seems to be no fuss made about the integrity of the scene, which is weird because even though, I pretty much already went over that. At about 8:10, the first detective arrives on scene, and this is Linda Arndt, our favorite person.
Eyes.
The eyes. The lady with the eyes. Who immediately begins her investigation, but even she doesn't secure the crime scene correctly.
No.
It's noted that John Ramsey is kind of missing for about an hour.
So, yeah, they said like an hour and a half that he just kind of like is
he's
gone.
Unaccounted for. Like
they even said like, where's John? And I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
And somebody said that he went to go get the mail, but their mail...
There was a time that he was like in the kitchen looking at the mail, and they even thought that was strange, but...
I don't.
Nobody knows. No, I don't think that's weird either, because nobody knows how... Maybe he's just doesn't know what to do with himself. So
well, he said in an interview that
he's looking for some clues.
He was like looking through the mail in case there was something else. Like he didn't know if they dropped something through the mail, like another communication or not. Like their mail came through their mail slot in the door.
That makes sense. So I don't know. You're gonna make something out of everything.
Exactly. And this is the whole telephone thing, because there's different stories about the whole. He's saying that he didn't leave the house, and there's a story that he left and he was gone for an hour, and he's like, I never left the house. Our mail comes through the door.
Yeah, I don't think he left the house.
So that's exactly what you were talking about before. Like there's going to be different narratives here. At about 1 p.m., Detective Arndt tells... Okay, so this is another thing where I found two different versions, and what I heard in some of the interviews were completely different. About 1 p.m., Detective Arndt tells John Ramsey that the police will be conducting a search of the house, and he and his friend Fleet White join in.
Oh, see, yeah. There's two different stories.
Right, which is not what I heard.
No.
And the stories I heard is she instructs them
to do a top to
bottom. And he, in her version of the story, he goes directly downstairs.
Now, see, that's what I was saying. Like the last thing I watched was actual detectives, police, investigators, reporters that were there in their words speaking. But then on the 2020 investigations and all the other stuff, it was their words speaking, her words alone.
Right. It's like everybody has a different story.
They can't keep their own story straight.
Right.
So one minute she's saying this, and the next minute she's saying that, and 1 minute they're saying this, and the next minute they're saying that. So they're not even keeping their own story straight.
Right.
And so I was really happy that I caught that before I came and watched that one thing. But yes, so in her own words.
Can we talk about her own words?
Yes.
Can we talk about her interview?
In her own words, on this interview, what was it, 2020, I think?
I think it might have been.
You go. Did you write any of it down?
I didn't write any of it down.
She, with her eyes.
Yeah, she had the scariest eyes
Ask
ever.
him. What I didn't get, you know what? I'm all scrambled. You go ahead. You start. Talk about it.
She asserts in this interview that she knew exactly who did it. So she never says who did it, but she heavily implies that it is.
Do you notice that everybody does that?
Yeah.
There was a juror on the grand jury. He does the same fucking thing.
Yeah. Heavily implies that it was John. That they made eye contact and they had this moment between the two of them.
Yes.
Where she knew and he knew.
You know what I didn't understand is when she said she put her gun and count 18 bullets and they went, "Why'd you do that?" And she said,
"Because I didn't know who was going to be alive."
No, but I didn't understand that. Like, what'd you think?
Very
they were going to. That statement did not make sense to me.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, she's very dramatic. But then she's like, "Oh, okay. I know you haven't covered this, but she spoke of it." And she said that after she had him search the house from top to bottom, and he went to the bottom first, and then how he contaminated everything. Well, in the thing I saw before I came here, they were talking about, they said she's the one, that detective is the one that pulled a blanket over JonBenet.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, then he takes this blanket and covers her up and contaminates the scene further. And I'm like, okay, so that's, again, two different stories. I'm going to let you get to it. But yes, if she was there during that time, I'd be accusing her.
We made eye contact and I knew and he knew who did it. Like, it was just like and I grabbed my holster and I counted my bullets.
Whoa.
Okay. We haven't had that in a while. Okay. So anyways, all right. So John and his friend Fleet are searching. They go downstairs into the basement. It's 1:05. It was 5:30 when Patsy discovers this ransom note. It is now 1:05 in the afternoon, and John discovers JonBenet's body in a spare room in the basement.
Now, supposedly, the house was already searched by police.
Right. But remember what I said. They skipped that room. And then another interview.
But how could they skip that room?
I know. Well, 7,000 square feet.
I mean, I get it. There's a lot of rooms.
Right. But be thorough.
Exactly.
Be fucking thorough.
Turn over some beds.
Right.
Flip over a chair, for God's sake.
And one of the, I think it was an interview, or was it a documentary? But they were talking about, like, how did this room get missed? And they were talking about when you're coming from the light down into the dark basement, like, it was easy to, like, you still have that blinding light, and it was easy, like, you come around that corner, it's easy to miss that room.
Oh, okay.
So that was one of the explanations that I heard. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, listen, we'll get into it. I'm going to tell you about a whole lot of fishiness because this police department is fishy.
Right. So they discovered JonBenet's body. She suffered a skull fracture and a strangulation by Garrett. Her mouth and neck are bound with duct tape, which then investigators remove. Which that's another story. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, the ransom note itself was contaminated the minute everybody came over and started reading it and handling it. So the ransom note's contaminated.
Right.
Now, the dad finds JonBenet in the basement and is ripping the tape off of her.
Right. And he runs upstairs screaming, carrying her.
So now he's moved the body and is carrying her upstairs.
What was the purpose of her instructing them to search the house?
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. Like, why would you tell somebody else to do it?
So in her mind, she still thinks this is a kidnapping. Maybe she thinks that they're going to find some more evidence.
Clues?
But even if they find evidence, they're going to contaminate it because they're civilians.
Right.
So that thinking, like, I don't understand. No matter how much which way you scratch that,
we should
doesn't work
probably
for me.
Clarify because, I mean, from what I heard and had I now watched the thing I watched before I came here, the ransom note said between 8 and 10 they were going to call.
Right. And that time came and went.
Right. The police supposedly left shortly before 10, leaving only that detective alone in the house.
Right. Which is very weird.
Okay, her interview, she even stated that. She was the only one there, and she told him to go search the house from top to bottom. And in this thing that I'm watching before I came here, again, it is the words of detectives and investigators all by themselves, like police, their words, and they make it seem like that didn't happen that way. So who's telling the truth? It's all just like
very convoluted.
Very, like, it's all fishy. But anyway.
Right. Why would they, number one, why would they all leave if the kidnapper is supposed to call between 8 and 10?
And they left supposedly like 15 minutes prior to 10. So 9:45 is what I heard is that they. So why would you do that? Why wouldn't they stay until 10:30?
Right.
It just, none of it makes sense. And then they just, and then they leave one detective who, by the way, she was not a homicide detective. So this wasn't her thing. She wasn't accustomed to doing this. I mean, I get it. She was probably the one that they had because everybody else is on vacation, I guess. You mean they didn't have one homicide? Yes, B team.
The B team.
So
yeah, this is the part where she's talking about in that interview where he comes up and he brings her body up there, and this is where she grabs her holster because now
because she wore a shoulder holster.
Right.
So she wanted to have it close to her, and she's counting the bullets because, again, what'd she think? They were all going to come after her, or John's going to kill all of them, or Patsy's going to kill all of them, or...
And I guess John asks her if she's dead, which I think he knows in his...
Yeah.
He knows, but he wants somebody else to say
shock,
it.
You want somebody to tell, like, is she dead? You know. Why,
right.
My baby. Why, CB? Oh, you're my CB. Come on, look.
She's like, take me home.
You're my baby, aren't you?
So at 1:30, Boulder policemen Ron Walker and Larry Mason arrive and search the basement. Oh, Mason was one of the names that came up on there. And didn't Ron come up on there? My bones.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that's weird. So they arrive and they search the basement and wine cellar for further clues into which the wine cellar is also this little room. It's also they also call it the wine cellar, which is basically like an unfinished room.
Yeah, it's just there's not anything in it really.
Right. It's like concrete, unfinished concrete, and it's pretty super basic.
There's some like paint cans and stuff in there.
Finally, they secure the home. Preventing anyone else from coming in. It's 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You know,
we got a body.
Her whole support system has been in and out of that house. Arndt later moved the body closer to the Christmas tree upstairs. By bringing her upstairs and leaving the basement door open, much of the evidence became tainted. So now, what I'm wondering is, because there's pictures of her in the basement. So did they take her downstairs and stage those pictures? Because it's not like he took those pictures.
Well, there's pictures of like the blanket.
Okay.
There's not actual pictures.
Maybe later on somebody went in, whatever I saw. Because I thought I saw pictures
of actual her?
Of her in the basement. So I don't know.
They did have pictures, like they just have a wadded up blanket on the floor in the basement.
Okay.
But I will say the documentary that I saw before I came here, they have actual police footage of the house, and it gives you a really good idea of
just how big the house is.
Yeah, and I think it gives you
in that basement area.
Yeah, and it's actual, like it's from when they were doing the investigation.
Okay.
So
now this is flipped from a kidnapping to murder, and immediately the Ramseys come under suspicion. Immediately.
Yeah.
10:45 p.m. the Boulder County Coroner's team removed the young girl's body. So it's 10 o'clock that night. Well, actually close to 11. There's more in that one.
I didn't want us to mix,
So the coroner removes her body from the house. The autopsy revealed that JonBenet had been killed by strangulation and a skull fracture. There's still some speculation about which came first.
Yeah, they don't know. They can't tell.
Right. The official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation and associated with craniocerebral trauma.
And just in case somebody doesn't know what a garrote is, it is a type of in this case, it's a rope that's
Right.
tied to a stick. We'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other end is like a slip knot. So when the force of somebody leaning forward, it would make the slip knot get tighter.
Right.
And then it chokes somebody out.
That just gave me the chills.
Yeah. So because I didn't know what a garrote was until they explained it.
Right. They said there was no evidence of conventional rape, although sexual assault could not be ruled out. They did say that they found like wood fiber.
Yeah, inside her.
Very small, but they didn't.
They still didn't validate that she was actually sexually assaulted.
Right. They did find DNA on her underwear. I'll get into that later. A garrote that was made from a length of nylon cord and the broken handle of a paintbrush was tied around JonBenet's neck and had apparently been used to strangle her, which you just talked about. Part of the bristle end of the paintbrush was found in a tub containing Patsy's art supplies, but the bottom third of it was never found despite extensive searching of the house by the police in subsequent days. The autopsy revealed a vegetable or... Okay, this is like, there's a lot of talk about pineapple.
But you know what? At first, that's also got confusion because, again, in this documentary, they said something completely, in everything that I watched, every YouTube, every documentary, the movies, whatever I watched, did not explain the pineapple the way
why
this
it was
one
so
did.
important.
No, let me just say the amount that was eaten or who had it is completely different in this documentary compared to what everything else was saying.
I think the big deal that was made of, she said that they said they took her straight to bed. She
didn't eat.
She didn't eat. And
she was
asleep. I guess it was the time that she ate this, consumed it, and it had it completely broken down in her system. So they were like, well, she had to have eaten between...
There's a few things, little white lies that add up.
Right.
That's why we were pointing out, remember, she was asleep in the car. They carried her to bed.
Right.
Because now you're going to talk about this.
But what a dumb thing to lie about, though.
I'm telling you.
I mean, it would just be so much easier to say.
Well, she had a little snack before she went to sleep.
She had pineapple. Okay, yeah.
But that's what I mean. There were a lot of little stupid lies like that.
But I don't even think they were lying.
Oh, there's some lies.
That she's lying? That they're lying about the pineapple?
Well, no, about other things that are stupid.
And then somebody found a bowl that had her fingerprint on it that had pineapple in it. That had
the mom's fingerprint.
Right.
Right.
So hello, who washes the dishes in this kitchen?
Right.
Her fingerprints are going to... Who puts them away? There's going to be fingerprints. Her fingerprints are going to be all over the fucking place in there. So I don't even know what that proves.
That doesn't prove a damn thing.
She's 6 years old. I can't even tell you how many times my kids got up and had
their own
cereal.
Stuff. Right.
So I don't know. It just seems like the dumbest fucking thing to lie about.
It's the dumbest thing why are they focusing on it though?
Right.
Who cares if she had pineapple?
Because she's like, I didn't give her pineapple. So now that they're like trying to build a case around the pineapple.
Right. Well, that has something to do with
Burke.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get into that one in a little bit.
Go ahead.
All right. So the autopsy revealed vegetable or fruit material which may represent pineapple, which they weren't even conclusive about that either.
No, I'm not going to go there. I'll wait.
Which JonBenet had eaten a few hours before her death.
Because it was like partially digested.
Yeah, it wasn't completely At about 1:40, John Ramsey calls his pilot. Okay, here's a whole other thing.
He explained that.
Right. He calls his pilot. Yes, his pilot. Did I mention that they're pretty fucking rich? So he calls his pilot and is allegedly heard asking him to prepare for a flight to Atlanta, which remember, we already established the fact that they had already planned to leave that day. Mm-hmm. At this point, the Boulder police are like, you can't leave town.
Where are you going, motherfucker?
This is a murder investigation at this point.
Your daughter's dead and you're just going to get up and leave?
Right.
He did explain that in an interview of why he made that.
You want to elaborate on that?
I can't remember. Do you remember?
Just something about like
it was a reasonable explanation, to be honest. It wasn't curious to me.
I can't recall exactly what that was.
It had to do with just going back and being with family, and that it was more like because they had already made the plans, that it's almost like there was nothing left for us to do here.
And who wants to stay in the house that
Right.
your daughter was just murdered in?
Right. And so it actually was seemed fairly innocent. I know, I saw
Says Grandpa. All right. So instead of leaving town, they leave the house and spend the night at their friends, the Fernies. At 2:30 that day, this is the next day, after all of that transpired. So this is the 27th. All right. So at 2:30 that day, they conduct an interview with Burke, the 9-year-old brother. After
that, I know that poor kid.
I know. He's an awkward person.
He is. And I mean, I watched something where he was interviewed actually more recent, and he seemed normal. But if you just watched him on Dr. Phil alone, you're like,
God.
oh boy.
Yeah.
But again,
that didn't do him any favors.
It didn't. I mean, I just thought he was, because I'm a nervous smiler.
Right.
But again, different stories happen.
Well, and this is years after the murder. He's already processed it. Like, he's in a different place now mentally.
But there's different stories, not even between him, but it's between what everybody else is saying versus what his story is.
Right.
Like, that's not what happened, but then everybody else is saying something different. I'm sorry.
Okay, so where was I? At 2:30 that day, they conduct an interview with Burke. So he's 9.
He's 9 years old. I don't know if I'd even want them to talk to my 9-year-old.
Right. So, and he's maintained that he pretty much was out of the way during this whole investigation. Like that he stayed in his room.
The whole time. Remember that. Because that is the story even he says on Dr. Phil. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Is that other people are like, and then his parents let this kid, their daughter was just kidnapped or murdered, and they're letting him just go walk by himself down the street to a neighbor's house. That didn't happen. See what I mean? Like there's story, like where did they hear that? Because it didn't matter what I listened to or what I researched, I never heard that version. So all I know is he stayed in his room the whole time, and he said on Dr. Phil it was because he
felt safe there. Yeah,
he thought maybe his dad was chasing off an intruder. He thought, whatever. He just thought that he needed to stay in his room because it was safer.
I felt like Dr. Phil's questions kind of bothered me because you're asking a guy to recall something that happened when he was 9 years old.
I don't
so
know
you're
what
basically
happened to me when I was
9.
Exactly.
And the questions that he was asking him is like you're trying to get him to access that 9-year-old kid
that was traumatized.
That was trauma.
Usually when you have trauma, you block it out.
Right.
Trauma is trauma and you block it out.
And he's asking him questions like, "Don't you think that's weird?"
Yeah.
Well, no, he didn't think it was weird when he was 9 years old. Like,
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, I will say that one of the podcasts I listened to was this woman. I think I wrote it down. I'll let you know. And she had a guest who actually knows Dr. Phil, and he even had a little issue with the way Dr. Phil. We need to put a disclaimer on here because from what I understand,
they sue.
So we need to make sure that we put a disclaimer that we are not, we're not accusing anybody.
Right.
We are not even suggesting. We're just telling a story, and our opinions are, they're just, how do you say it? It's
this is for entertainment purposes only.
none of this is accusing or speculating or saying that anybody is guilty of any crime.
Right.
We're not accusing
not.
them at all. We're just telling the story that's already been out there.
Right.
And what the
we're just
press
rehashing
and everybody
it.
else has already said.
Right. And what we're doing right here is I just wanted to go over the timeline. And we're kind of getting off into the weeds, but
I mean,
it was an awkward interview because of the smiling. Like he did smile, he does have an awkward, nervous smile, but I didn't see anything nefarious. I watched that thing backwards and forwards. If there was anything that I was bothered with was Dr. Phil in his line of questioning. You know, you're asking this guy to go back to the worst time of his life and access that 9-year-old little boy and his memories.
How did you feel when you hear your sister?
Like
Well, I have to say, because this started with, during this timeline, he's being interviewed by the police. Well, he was actually interviewed by, like, I think, a psychologist or something. And the way, during that interview, a lot of people have said, like, during that interview and the interview with Dr. Phil and his mannerisms. And
they ruled him out from the get-go.
Yeah, because, and the way he was during that, I don't think he's an unusual person. I think he just he's the way he is. He was raised in a very unusual way.
Well, and he had to have been raised in a bubble because they were being stalked for years.
He's always been one of the most sought at interviews. So imagine, he had to hide all the time. He had to stay inside.
Right. Well, I'm sure they kept him pretty sheltered because
he had to grow accustomed to being an introvert.
Every time you went for years, you go to the grocery store, JonBenet Ramsey, it's like on the freaking...
Imagine that. And then the trauma just is right in your face. So I feel for the guy. And even in that interview when he was a kid, you know, everybody's like, his feet are up on the chair. Well, yeah, it's awkward.
He's being fucking 9.
He's 9 years old, and he's being asked these insane questions, and he doesn't get it. I just know how my kids were at 9, and they probably would have been the same way.
Everybody has a different reaction to grief. Everybody has a different reaction to trauma. Everybody has a different reaction to getting in a car accident.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? Like
some people get mad. Somebody start crying. Some people might
sit there shaking in their boots because they're just like in shock. All right. Okay. So I guess we can move on from that. But yes, like this is just for entertainment purposes only. And we're not like saying who's guilty and who's not guilty. We're just rehashing the things that we've read and the things that we've heard.
We're telling the story.
There
it is again.
Blake. Hi, Blake.
We're not the only ones that tell this story and get off going,
into the weeds. Oh, yeah.
Because you can't help it. You have to during this story.
All right. So after this time, John Ramsey hires his friend Mike Bynum as a attorney. All right. So December 28th, 1996.
They lawyered up right away.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Right away.
And which people talk about that.
I would have too, because when you are the only suspects.
Right. And then I'm sure, like, number one, John Ramsey is not a fucking idiot. He's obviously savvy in the business world. They're already picking up on the fact that, hey, they're looking at us. We might as well get a lawyer.
Right. And then the lawyers are like, say nothing, do nothing.
Right.
So they're just following lawyers' direction. And then, of course, everybody's like, oh, they must be guilty.
Right.
They don't want to talk to the police. Because every time they talk to the police, they are made to feel, or the police are gunning for them.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, and of course, they wouldn't be doing, even after watching the interview that they did with Watts, like, they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't. Because statistically, it's the parents that did it, right?
Well, I mean, in something, I don't know. I mean,
when there's a murder in the home and the child is dead,
it's probably the parents.
Statistically, it's the parents. So obviously, that's the first thing that they're looking at. But evidentially, I'm just making shit up now. With the evidence at hand, after the fact, when you realize like the other evidence that they had that pointed to that there could have been an intruder, they didn't follow that evidence.
They didn't want to hear it.
Right. So, okay, but I'm going to let you get into the intruder stuff. Yeah. So, anyways, December 28th, 1996, the Ramseys cooperate with authorities. The family goes to the Boulder police station and they willingly give hair, blood. So just remember this. This is the 28th. So they're talking, the thing that's put out there is that they didn't cooperate.
No, yeah. They're like, they didn't want to help the police.
But they did.
Yes, they did.
They give hair, blood, and handwriting samples on the 28th. The police later state that John's grown children, John, Andrew, and Melinda, were out of town when the murder occurred, so they're not suspected at the time. On December 29th, the family flies to Atlanta their hometown. On December 31st, they bury their daughter in Marietta, Georgia.
I am surprised that they were able to bury her so
I know.
quickly.
But I guess they got the whole autopsy.
Got everything they needed.
Yeah.
But
in Marietta, Georgia, next to her half-sister Elizabeth, who John,
go ahead.
That's John's, from his first marriage. He lost her. I think she was early.
Car accident or something.
Yeah, it was a car accident. So, and he was barely dealing with the grief of that when this happens. So
That's so sad.
On January, and then Patsy had just gone into remission
from her cancer.
Yeah, from her cancer. So anyways, then on January 1st, 1997, John and Patsy give a 45-minute interview to CNN from Atlanta.
Which they caught hell for. Because people were saying that they did this interview with CNN before even talking to the police, which clearly they had...
is not the truth.
Right.
Much to the chagrin of the Boulder Police Department, partly because they had been too emotional to speak to the police, according to the Boulder Police Department. Also, Boulder Police Department were reassuring the public that there was not a murderer on the loose in Boulder. However, Patsy says in the interview, "There is a killer on the loose. If I were a resident of Boulder, I would tell my friends to keep your babies close to you. There's someone out there." And I did watch this interview. She's obviously heavily medicated. She probably sounds like the way I'm talking right now. You could just see, like, she had to take something just to...
I'm sure.
And this is only... It's literally days after.
Yeah. Lust.
That's weird.
Oh.
On January 3rd, 1997, detectives announced that the note was written on a paper pad from inside the house, meaning it was likely written after the murder. John and Patsy returned to Boulder. Boulder cops also go to Charlevoix, Michigan, to search through a summer home the Ramsey family owns. Not too long after, it is discovered that there was a practice ransom note. Also, that it has been torn from a tablet of paper found in the house, which was said to belong to Patsy.
The paintbrush
is Patsy's.
Patsy. Tablet, Patsy.
Right.
But again, they're in Patsy's house.
Right.
And could be that they were there for hours.
Right. One analysis found that it probably took 20 minutes to write. It was carefully written. And I told you that I listened to Johnny Douglas, the Mindhunters author. I guess he was a former FBI agent. In his book, The Cases That Haunt Us, he mentions that he believes it was not written with the person's dominant hand. He was hired by the law firm that represented the Ramseys to interview them and give an opinion as to whether he felt they were guilty or not. And he didn't believe that they were guilty, which he caught hell for from a lot of people. Yeah, he was just like, he also doesn't think that John and Patsy in a panicked state, would have been able to pen such a carefully written letter before calling 911. He's taken some flack on his opinions about this case. Some of the stuff that I was watching, they were saying that he was hired by the Ramseys. He was never hired by the Ramseys.
No, and what's interesting is here you have even the detective that I'll be speaking about, who is so known for closing hundreds of cases that they brought him in out of retirement. But yet, no. He can't. He's crazy. He can't be right.
Right.
Then you have this guy who's known for knowing his shit.
Right.
But in this particular case, he can't know his shit.
Right.
It's like they just don't want
to hear any
other plausible explanation.
Right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read the letter. It says, "Mr. Ramsey, this is the letter that was found at the bottom of the stairs. Listen carefully," which is a weird thing to write in a letter. Listen carefully. "We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction." Weird. "We respect your business, but not the country that it serves." I'm reading the actual... Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this because the handwriting is weird.
Patsy writes terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
"We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession." Okay, I'm going to tell you something to notice. They never mention her name.
No, that's interesting.
"She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. the letter. Wine. Sorry, guys. You will withdraw $118,000.
Wait, 118 or 180?
18.
I don't know why I kept thinking 100. Okay, yeah, you're right.
$118,000.
Sorry, my bad.
And they .00. They they write it out completely.
Give me some more wine. You're right. I know that.
From your account.
Now, keep in mind, that's a strange number.
Very strange number. Very specific number.
Specific.
They're rich. Why not reach for the sky?
Why not say
$1 million?
Most ransom notes would be like,
give me $1 million.
Give me $1 million or your daughter dies. That's it.
Or a nice round number, like 5.
Holy shit.
Okay, it said choke.
Daddy, no.
It said that the last time.
Did it?
Yeah.
I got goosebumps.
Okay, that's weird.
Wine might not be strong enough tonight. Oh my God, I'm a little freaked out. Okay, nope. Nope.
All right.
Keep reading the note. I'm freaked out.
All right, so we're talking about the $118,000. So it tells...
It didn't say choked daddy no, though.
No.
Too high up? It never does that. It never gives us that many words
It
together.
has been today.
Just tonight, yeah.
All right. $100,000 will be in $100 bills and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills, which is fucking weird. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank.
Is that what it says?
It really says attaché with the little squiggly line attaché to the bank.
Attached?
No, attaché.
But do they mean attached?
No, they mean attaché.
What the fuck does that mean?
It's the case.
Oh, okay. Look at that. That is full-fledged.
It says Sarah. It's like going red right now.
And I don't think I've ever seen it go that hardcore. Have you?
It's like freaking me out a little. Okay. Make sure that you're bringing adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be well rested.
What does that even mean?
To be rested.
Yeah.
I'm going to address that in a minute.
Right.
If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money, and hence an earlier pickup. They wrote earlier delivery, but they crossed out delivery. So earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughters being beheaded. Wow,
Ew.
that's
graphic.
Okay. Ooh, that escalated quickly. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if anyone... I'm just trying to imagine somebody writing this out and being in a panic about it. And also, the movie references in here are like so fucking crazy. Like ransom, this, and okay, there's a. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. I can see that Patsy probably scanned this and didn't read the whole thing.
I wouldn't.
I think once I got the gist of it, I would have like dropped it and then like ran and tried to find her.
Yeah.
Or got Albert and been like...
Like once I realize it's a ransom note and they have, like my child is in danger, the first thing I would have done is exactly what she did. Go and check my kid's room.
Right.
Oh my God, she's gone. Of course I would go and call the police.
Right. You stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John.
That, again, keep
Movie
in
reference.
mind.
That sounds like Speed.
I think I have it documented what movie that's
What
from.
movies? You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you, John. It's up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC.
Okay, can I just say, I know I'm talking about... Nope, I'm going to save it. I'll just save it.
Okay.
Can I keep this?
Yeah. So it is determined after handwriting analysis that John Ramsey did not write the letter. However, the handwriting analysis was inconclusive as far as Patsy Ramsey was concerned, and I watched several things where they match up letters.
Me too.
You know, certain ways she writes and certain letters that match up to this. Mm-hmm. And then somebody also said, I didn't put it in here, that it had to be a woman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't see that.
They concluded that it was a woman that wrote the letter,
I don't
but
know.
that's
That definitely does not look like a woman's
It's one of-
writing.
no, that does not.
But
look
I
like
will
it.
say, so right before I came, I watched remember I was watching that one person that was saying hundreds of letters matched. Well, I missed a little piece. She actually said 200 characters matched Patsy's writing. Well, what 2020 said was she was actually not able to testify in anything because she didn't hold the proper credentials. And that to me says a lot.
Yep.
So I then was like, you are discounted.
Right.
So because she was like, out of the A's, I wrote down, oh shoot, I think it's on my phone. But anyway, out of the A's, she said like there were so many matching. And anyway, she says she matched 200 characters. And then once she got discounted, I was like, girl, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right. And handwriting analysis is one of those things where you can get an opinion this way or that way.
Mm-hmm. You could probably have 3 handwriting, what do you call them, specialists.
And get 3 different opinions.
3 different opinions.
There's been much speculation as to the similarities of Patsy's writing and the ransom note, but we're not really going to get into that here.
I will say there are similarities. Though.
There are some letters that are in there you're like, okay. And there was also some phrasing, like the way a word that she says, that was it also in the letter. I can't remember exactly what it'll come to me. It's announced that the veteran homicide detective Lou Schmidt has joined the Boulder team working the Ramsey murder. Schmidt, a retired investigator from El Paso County, is best known for cracking the murder case of Heather Dawn Church in Colorado Springs. Schmidt leads the team of investigators put together by Boulder DA Alex Hunter, but I'm not going to get into all of the theories that he has out there because I'm going to leave that to you. By April 18th, 1996, the Boulder DA Alex Hunter publicly identifies the Ramseys as the prime focus of their investigation.
Listen, Alex Hunter, he's got it in for them bad.
Yeah, he did.
I wrote some stuff. What did I say? Oh, and Detective Steve Thomas. I mean, he did not want to let go of the fact that he was like, they are 100%
guilty. Yep. For those that may remember, there was a lot of focus and opinions on the fact that JonBenet was a child beauty pageant darling, and there was lots of negative media attention swirling around this. Formal interviews of the Ramseys were finally conducted with them 4 months. Okay, so the formal interview was 4 months after JonBenet's murder.
That bugged a lot of people.
Right. Yes. And it probably didn't do them any favors. It didn't. No. That didn't look good. But they were probably acting on the advice of their lawyers. 1 and number 2.
It was 100%.
I feel like the Boulder Police Department had set up a very adversarial relationship with them already.
Right. I mean, they weren't. That's what she was like. Stop focusing on us and go find the killer.
Right.
Like, stop it. I didn't kill my child. The one thing that I couldn't handle, and again, this could just be her southern part, I don't know. But if it was my child, I don't refer to my children as the child. I refer to my kids as my babies or my son, my daughter.
Right.
You know, go find my baby.
Right.
But she's like the child.
And so everybody's like,
Yeah.
attacks that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they end up interrogating Patsy for like 6.5 hours. And John is later interrogated for about 2 hours. So it's obvious who their prime suspect is here. There are two major... Oh, my God. Girl.
She farted.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a farter.
Yeah.
Has to happen every episode.
Yep. But it's not as bad as Apollo at all. Apollo, man, brings tears to your eyes.
Oh, it tastes like a rubber tire.
The tasting part, I'll never get over that. All right. There are two major theories as to who may be responsible for JonBenet's murder. And that is that one of three people in that house that night killed her, or there's the intruder theory. One of the theories is that Patsy accidentally killed JonBenet in a fit of rage after a bedwetting incident. Proponents of this theory say she staged the crime scene, the ransom note, and everything else. However, Patsy did not have a known history of uncontrolled anger, and that was another thing that author of Mindhunters also brought out, is people don't just suddenly start acting out of character.
And I will say, that's Detective Steve Thomas was the one that he can't let go of that bedwetting theory.
Right.
But I will say, and Smith is the one that said, if she wet the bed, where are the stains? There's no pee stains on her bed.
Right.
He says that in his recordings.
Right. And then there was another theory that it was that after death release that was probably
that
the
was
reason
from that's definitely
her dying.
from yes. That wasn't from wetting the bed. There's no pee stains on her bed.
Right.
The stuff that's on her underwear is from her.
It's like he
peeing
got
from the
that
trauma.
theory and he held on to it.
Yes, he wants it to be the mom.
All right. And that was the thing, is like people don't just start acting out of character.
No.
Like they start saying that she's controlling or whatever. But like even in the interview with Burke, he was like, my mom was a loving mom. Like,
you know what I get from her?
She was a pageant mom.
But that little girl was that was their bonding thing. That was because she did it. And it was like, that's what her dream was, to have a little girl, and she was going to do pageants with her. And that's
from
what they did
every
together.
like interview of people that know them, like she enjoyed doing it. She liked doing it.
Even the girls who are adults now, they're in their 20s, they interviewed, they said she was so good at it and she really did love it. So she never showed any signs of, Mommy, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, she liked doing it.
Right.
And so
that's why I'm saying, like, everybody has these, like,
you don't hate your child and spend millions of dollars on those outfits.
Right.
And dressing them up, and the time that goes into that stuff.
Also, like, all the opinions that people have about it, like, she was raised in that life. So it wasn't anything
so big in the South.
Right.
I mean, do you not watch Toddlers and Tiaras?
Oh my God, let's not even get into that, please. Oh, Honey Boo Boo.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother.
That's all. Pour me some more.
I better have some more wine.
Have some more.
Let's have some more wine.
Okay. So yeah, there's this theory that
God, what are we gonna
she's
do?
the one that.
I should have brought the big bottle. The big bottle.
The big bottle.
The big bottle for tonight.
You know what? If you brought the big bottle, we would drink
it.
the big bottle, and this would be a lot messier now.
I mean, look, that's a bottle and a half we drank.
I know.
Or a bottle and a quarter. Mm-hmm. All right, girl. Here.
Clink. Thanks for clinking me.
Who's Harriet? Oh, I like this one.
So, Burke even said, we didn't even get spanked. Nothing of that sort. Nothing close. Nothing near laying a finger on us, let alone killing your child.
Would she have spent the kind of money, like, the little girl had a Christmas tree in her room.
Right.
She had,
I think it's obvious to people which way we're leaning. But I just want to say I started this whole thing out thinking that the parents did it until I started watching like everything and reading everything, and I'm just like,
listen, first of all, the way this little girl died, you have to be
a heartless, cruel beast.
Demented.
Right.
And these people, even if they were child abusers, even if they were, I don't believe that they are, but even if they were, do you know how demented somebody would have to be to do the things that were done to this little girl,
right,
to their own child? I don't see that. You don't spend the kind of time and money and have the thing, just, you think their other children would stand behind them if they were those kind of people?
Right.
Because if they're that way with those kids, then clearly they would be that way with the others. You have to be so demented, so deranged.
Right.
To do the things that were done to this little girl.
Hit your daughter over the head. Oh, she didn't die. Oops. Okay, now I'm going to strangle her with a garrote.
A garrote. Now, how do you make a garrote? That's not just something like taking. Why wouldn't they? She's 6. Use your hands.
Right.
Why not take a pillow and smother her?
Right.
Why not just take that rope and strangle her? Why a garrote? Why would... That's sophisticated.
Right.
Like, why... The knot that's made on the actual paintbrush...
Right.
It's a sophisticated knot.
Right.
It's not just something simple. It is a sophisticated knot. Like, the things that went into that, those people, that's actually something that somebody who has hard hands,
right,
would know. Like somebody who's worked on boats, or somebody who works outside, or somebody, not pampered people like them. They wouldn't know those things.
Right.
I don't believe. Anyway,
there's been a lot of speculation about like the kind of books that they actually read, the Mindhunter books.
Well, and supposedly he was into those movies,
right?
But so were some of the other suspects,
right?
So
exactly. Just reading that letter, like I just feel like the person that wrote that letter was young, like not a sophisticated person, except that they wrote attaché.
Yeah, because I'm like, what is that?
But if you've watched those movies, you know what an attaché is. And if you had recently watched those movies, of course.
And there, I don't know if I wrote down what movies, but they even said, like, Dirty Harry's one of them. They reference one of the things that were said in this is a line from Dirty Harry, so...
All right, so I'm just looking at time right now, and I know there's not a lot that I'm going to be able to cut out of this. So we are going to continue.
Long episode.
I'm going to finish this part. This part, yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll just break this into part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
I kind of knew that it was going to end up
and
this way.
most of these are like that. Because this case is huge.
All right. So another theory was that John was sexually abusing her and killed her to cover it up, which he vehemently denies, and his family and friends say it's impossible. And the police didn't even try to pursue that theory. Then there is a theory that 9-year-old Burke, in a fit of rage, hit her over the head with a flashlight because he caught her eating his pineapple.
All right.
And then either Patsy or both Patsy and John worked in tandem to cover it up and stage the crime scene, which means that they would have had to get their story together. They would have to keep that story together for years and years and years and years. They never wavered. Never wavered.
She went to her deathbed being a suspect.
Yeah. All right, so a Colorado grand jury voted in 1999 to indict the parents. The indictment cited 2 counts each of child abuse and said the parents did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and feloniously permit a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which resulted in the death of JonBenet Ramsey, a child under the age of 16. Among the experts who testified in the here we go.
Experts.
It's a good thing you're going to get into your story now. Among the experts who testified in the case were DNA specialist Barry Scheck and forensic expert Henry Lee. On October 13th, 1999, Alex Hunter, who was the district attorney at the time, refused to sign the indictment, saying that the evidence was insufficient for prosecution. The public thought that the grand jury I know I'm skipping through a lot of stuff that happened in between, but this is just like the summation. The public thought that the grand jury investigation had been inconclusive.
That just said evil and devil right after each other.
Ooh.
That's so crazy.
Had been inconclusive. In 2002, the statute of limitations on the grand jury's charges expired. Other evidence besides the ransom note included a boot print found next to the JonBenet's body, which I'm sure you're going to get into, which it did not belong to anyone in the family. There was also a broken window in the basement, which was believed to be the most likely point of entry for an intruder. Additionally, there was DNA from drops of blood from an unknown male found on her underwear. The floors in the Ramseys' home were heavily carpeted, making it plausible for an intruder to have carried JonBenet downstairs without waking the family.
By the way, the house is so huge. They did even their own test. It's very possible that a noise could be made and you can't hear it from the different rooms because it is so big.
Much of the recent investigation in the case revolves around the DNA profiles developed by the sample found in her underwear and the touch DNA later developed from her long johns. The profile from her underwear was entered into CODIS, the National DNA Database, in 2003, but no matches have been identified. In 2006, Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey took over the case. She agreed with the federal prosecutor that the intruder theory was more plausible than the Ramseys killing their daughter, under Lacey, which pissed a lot of people off.
Yes.
Under Lacey's lead, investigators developed a DNA profile from Touch DNA, which there's a lot of controversy around that as well. In 2008, Lacey released a statement detailing the DNA evidence and fully exonerating the Ramsey family, an exoneration that comes a little late for Patsy, who had passed away on June 24, 2006, of ovarian cancer.
What I was watching, they said they actually had that DNA analyzed by something else, and it confirmed her, and that they were saying she did the right thing. Mm-hmm. So all those who were poo-poo on her, poo-poo on them because they're wrong. It exonerated
Well, when you
them.
get into your part, that we can talk about the DNA a little bit more. I'm just going to finish up here so we can. In 2010, the case was officially reopened with a renewed focus on the DNA samples. Further testing has been conducted on the samples, and experts now believe that the sample is actually from two individuals rather than one. In 2016, it was announced that the DNA would be sent to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to be tested using more modern methods, and authorities hope to develop an even stronger DNA profile of the killer. The Ramsey story has remained consistent throughout the years. Ooh, okay. I tell you.
Yeah.
The Ramsey story has remained consistent throughout the years. In 2016, Boulder Police Chief Greg Testa said that investigators have collected 15,000 pieces of evidence, including the analysis of 200 DNA samples, traveled to 19 states to interview about 1,000 people, and have received and reviewed or investigated more than 20,000 tips, letters, and emails. And I think that was just more in defense of like their investigation of the case. And I got all of this information from, of course, Wikipedia, InTouchWeekly.com, for their timeline by Samantha Lear, the Denver Post JonBenet timeline, and then crimemuseum.org, and 2020 CNN interviews, and several other.
This thing's being really dark.
What? Black Heart?
Yeah.
Ooh,
it keeps saying bar, like it's talking about going to a bar or whatever, and evil, devil.
Oh, I don't even like that.
I know, it's being really dark.
Shall we turn it off?
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to end this here.
We're going to take a break.
This is going to be a two-parter, and then stay tuned for the second part, which Carlene is going to do, and she's going to go into the intruder theory,
suspects,
Detective John Smith, and his family's continued investigation of the case using his database, and all the suspects. So you guys stay tuned. Thank you for listening. I know it's kind of long. That's why we're breaking it up into two pieces. Thank you and good night.
Good night.